Queen Jezebel and feminism, the sisterhood. I wanted to do a little case study review for myself to understand the spirit that I am observing is really operational in these times. So let's review. Queen Jezebel is a very prominent figure. She is described as being very manipulative and vicious and ambitious. So I was looking at the fact that she would incite religious and political turmoil. So picture a socialite, a woman who wants to climb and consolidate power. And marriage is a good way to consolidate power. If you come from a powerful family, then you marry into another powerful family, right? Game of Thrones type of stuff. So she marries a king, and through her marriage, she then consolidates power over people. And she happens to have a culture that she's very fanatical about, a culture that would look like a religion, and she takes it so serious that she is converting people to her culture, her mindset, her worldview. So some of the markings of Queen Jezebel and what we call the Jezebel spirit is chaos and confusion. And another thing that works in the favor of Queen Jezebel is the control over like the narrative, how it's spun. And we know from ancient cultures, you hear about a goddess named Medea. And we know that in Black Hollywood, one of the most powerful producers would be a man who dresses as a woman, a very strong woman, and named Medea. So Medea, do you see where I'm going? I know. Okay. So having control of your image, where you can craft it, you can basically control it. And this is how power is consolidated. Now, another way that it's done is through manipulation. Now, I want to bring up modern culture examples. Now, intimidation, where they can dangle your career in front of your face is very fragile. You're walking on eggshells all the time and jumping through hoops. So there's a fear component. And I want to bring, again, examples that now when we think about the political scene in America with women in politics, every woman that I hear about that has issues with power, abuse of power, they seem to operate just like this. It's like a blueprint. You hear about their team and how there's dissension. There's also infighting, civil war within their groups, and also quick turnover, where people are getting fired or quitting because they can't take the abuse of power. Now, the blackballing, the threats where you can't move forward, and that type of intimidation is also part of the power. And they have a goon squad, they have a beehive, and they have people that will do their bidding because they're a queen. They're seen as a woman that you worship, basically. So this is what that Queen Jezebel brings out in other people. And it could be other women in their beehive, but also men. Beta men are described this way. Also men that are just effeminate. So this is how Queen Jezebel consolidates power to intimidate people to comply with her will. And also, Jezebel is not above unaliving people. Now, her husband, very weak, beta male energy, he allowed her to bring her religion, which was the worship of Baal, the same God that we see today in operation. And, demanding sacrifices of your newborn to babies in the womb. Abortion, okay? Yes, that is a modern altar to Baal and Moloch. So Queen Jezebel is into this religion, this cult. And Ahab, her husband, he was so weak that he allowed her culture to take over and change the national identity. And the people were under this other religion, all because this queen was able to bring this king under her submission. And also, he was spoiled, a king, and he wanted some land that the person wouldn't sell because it was considered heir's property, and a vineyard. So he was complaining to Jezebel, and she moved people in position to unalive this person and then manipulate her way to get the title deed for the vineyard and the land and give it to her husband as a gift. And this was just to show she could do it. She was powerful enough to do it. And if anybody stood in her way and criticized her, they were persecuted, okay? Especially if a person was a prophet and was speaking the words of the Most High Yah and letting the people know that this isn't right and warning Jezebel, she would persecute the prophets. I want to add that Jezebel used lawfare against her enemies, and that's how she got the vineyard for her husband. She used lawfare. So the court system being weaponized against enemies. Another thing that I'm thinking about within modern culture is you think about the whole city girls, and this is a modern woman that is complained about, I know, in the red pill spaces. But the modern woman sounds so much like this, the pride, and, when she was at the end of her power run, because she had done so much stuff. It would take a long time to describe everything, but she used all the, institutions, the military, the courts and everything to politically harm people and to get her competition and anybody who went against her out of the way. So she knew that eventually she would meet a certain fate because the prophets were warning her. And I believe all Jezebels are warned and they are given a chance to repent. So pride, of course, and ego, it gets the best of a lot of them. And what she tried to do in the end was seduce and use her feminine wiles. She beat her face with the makeup. And this particular man was appointed to end Jezebel's reign. And she went out like a G, beat her face. And she either tried to seduce her way out, I don't know, or she was just going to face it. And it's an ugly end. She fell out of the window or something, and the dogs, I don't know, wild dogs came and had a feast, and all that was left were her hands and feet. I can't talk about a lot of this stuff because yesterday I had a video taken down from TikToks. So I have to think about how I can say things. But I want to say overall, this spirit of Jezebel, we are watching the final swan dance for Jezebel. And anybody operating in that spirit, it's real clear now. This current election, it really made it clear what sides we're talking about here and who is on which side. I want to talk about this more moving forward, but just to keep anybody wondering and fearing Jezebel, to be encouraged, because this is it. This is the shortest season that Jezebel will have, and the end is coming. And you will watch it, okay? And stay encouraged and be resilient, mentally resilient, and endure.